Up in Minnesota updates. So for our new guests, so what's up in Minnesota is where I take a look at all the cases that have come into Minnesota that our field investigators are working on, and the updates are cases that I've presented before that weren't completed that have now completed since then. And so after I do the updates, I'll show you the new cases. So this is not the 7 of the 9 I was mentioning. The 7 of the 9 will come after the updates, and I want to change something that what I've done in the past too, because this kind of bothered me in the past. When I've done updates in the past, I've kind of ignored the valet classifications, and I go over the valet classifications when I get to the new cases, but I kind of feel like it'd be helpful to hear the valet classifications for updated cases too, just because people don't have them memorized. It's good to kind of know what we're looking at there. So going into our updates, you've seen these all before, but they are now completed. So starting off with case number, I have no idea. Can we move that? Can we do something to get that out of there, please? Took place on June 5th, 2023 at 5:24 p.m. A circle was seen, CE1. So CE1, that's close encounter of the first kind. And a CE1 is defined as a class of objects seen on the ground or at a short distance to the observer. So taking pictures, never noticed a green glowing orb. Was traveling home and decided to take a few pictures and never saw anything. That might actually be a good spot for it, because I think as they go by, it's going to kind of be out of the way of stuff. So yeah, so Kathy was working on this one. Kathy couldn't be with us today. She was planning on being here, but unfortunately she is. Do you know, is Kathy watching us online? Do you know, or is she just not in shape for it? She is. Hey, Kathy, we hope you're doing well. So take care. We're checking out your case. Hey, Kathy, we hope you're doing well. Take care. We're hoping to see you again sometime soon. So when I showed it to you before, it was in progress. We got some pictures on this one. So here's some of the pictures. Now, if you, can you click on it again so I can get my clicker going? Okay. Okay. So here's obviously what we're looking at, this right here. And if you've been to a bunch of our meetings, you're going to kind of recognize these. You've seen this before, and this is pretty common. So and actually she does pick off exactly what this is. And in this picture, it's, I don't know if it's behind the bar. I think it might be behind the bar, but that's, you can leave the bar there. So, because some of them, they're hard to see. In this one, it's obviously right here is what they're looking at. And this is a case too where, and in this one, it's, I think it's, yeah, it's right there. You can barely see it, but it's right there is what we're looking at. And it's right behind the bar. So you leave the bar there because we can't. Oh yeah. So it's down, but there is something up here. But yeah, this down at the bottom is that other one though. Yep. So thank you for catching that. But there is like another object up here. So that's the 6 pictures. And so she's completed. She's calling it an unknown other. She says witness was rational, had worked as a responsible job as a fire chief in his career. He's seen things like these orbs and other objects his whole life and seems to take it in stride. I told him I would agree with the other investigator that these are likely lens flares. And I would agree, these are lens flares. That's what we're looking at. But to keep sending in pictures and reports. Careful not to modify his photos, however. She's calling it disposition of unknown other, which is see, that's the thing. When you get to these dispositions, they could be a couple different things. So, and when I said lens flare, you had a questioning look on your face because everyone know what a lens flare is. We've talked about it before. So, but in case you don't, do you know what a lens flare is? Okay, so let's go back and take a look. This is a perfect example of a lens flare. So you can see this little dot right here. So what's happening with a lens flare? It's actually an aberration or artifact that's happening inside the camera. So when you're taking a picture of something, there needs to be a very, very, very bright light source. So it doesn't have to be black, but there needs to be a bright light source either within the frame or outside of the frame nearby. And what happens is that very bright light, when it's bright compared to the background, the light comes in there and it starts reflecting off the lenses in the camera and it creates a little flare like this. You get this little, oh, yeah. Well, actually, that's a good one too. You see wherever it is. Yeah, right there. So that's actually because you can see the bright light source. So this little dot here is actually caused by that bright light. So this is a classic lens flare. They're usually round. They're usually green. It's funny. I saw a report. Someone was talking about why they're green. There's something about when the lens, they have like a coating on the lens. So that type of coating on the lens causes the flare to flare green. So yeah, so lens flares look a lot like this often. So it's a lens flare. She's calling it unknown other. You know, and I had one, it wasn't a lens flare, but I could also almost call this an information only. And I would call this an information only because we're starting to get more cases like this. If you think about it, these pictures that he took, he was taking pictures, but he never saw those little green orbs. He didn't see them because they weren't out in space. They were inside his camera. So he didn't actually witness an event. He didn't witness an object. So there really was no witness to this. He was looking at the pictures afterwards, and that's when he saw it. So there was no witness to anything as much as he saw the flare in the photographs afterwards. So, but yeah, unknown other, that works for me too. And so thank you very much. Thank you for your work on that, Kathy. We certainly appreciate the work you do for us here at Minnesota MUFON. So going on to case number 131602, took place in June of 2023. Unknown FB1. So another FB1. So FB stands for flyby. So we got a flyby of the first kind. So we define a flyby of the first kind as a simple sighting of a UFO flying by in the sky, the category most frequently reported. So Bill, if this is assigned to Bill McNeff at this time, hundreds of light traveling in a straight line. If you've been here with us for a few months, you probably know what this, and we got some pictures, so you probably have an idea what this is going to be. So here's our row of lights traveling in a straight line. And I think we've got another picture of a row of lights traveling in a straight line. And I think we got one more row of lights traveling, and they're kind of, it looks like they're either breaking up a little bit, but yeah. So of course, IFO stands for Identified Flying Object, Man-Made Object. So this is a RIDRC case, Rapid Investigation and Disposition of Repetitive Cases, Man-Made Objects. So what this is, we were getting a lot of these a year or two ago. This is the Starlink, SpaceX Starlink satellites being launched. And a lot of times you'll see them in a long stream that have good spacing between them. This is a newer launch because all the satellites are still bunched up in a very tight cluster like that. So, but this looks like classic Starlink satellite by SpaceX. So Bill worked on that, and yeah, IFO, man-made object, identified flying object, Starlink satellite. So yeah, thank you very much for your work on that, Bill. Case number 131604 is a cigar-shaped FB1, again, a flyby of the first kind, took place in Shakopee. Long line of lights. Sound familiar? Kind of like what we just looked at. So I personally observed a long line of lights proceeding south to north. Bill McNeff was working on this one. Completed man-made object, RIDRC. Disposition man-made object. I'm assuming this is again another Starlink, another SpaceX Starlink. Remember how I said we usually get 6 to 8 a month? When the SpaceX Starlink satellites were just launching, we were peaking at like 18 to 20 cases a month, which is really unusual for us. But we were just getting so many Starlink satellites because they're so obvious and so many people were seeing them. We were getting so many reports on it. But now people are more familiar with them. There's not as many launches as there were. So we're getting fewer and fewer of them, but we still get them a couple times. And actually, speaking of things we've seen before that we've seen again, we've got those 7. There's one in the 7 that's like that. So some of you are kind of going to, oh, we've seen that before. We know what that is. So moving on, case number 131941-U. They didn't have a date for us, but they did put in 12 a.m. And whenever there's no date like that, I almost feel like the 12 a.m. is probably like a default date, but it could be the actual date. Shape was another, again, close encounter of the first kind. In Crow Wing County, craft was a quarter mile long and rectangular with shorter rectangular cross sections. Steve Hero was investigating this one. It was in progress at the time, and Steve has concluded. Let's see what Steve concluded. Insufficient data, and this is unfortunate, but this does happen. Unable to contact the witness, spoke to someone twice, and they said they'd call back, but failed to do so. Tried email, but an invalid email address. Will reopen the case if he contacts me. Case conclusion, insufficient data. When we can't get that witness interview, the witness interview is so important to getting a real good, clear picture of what actually happened. If we can't get that interview, because really without the witness interview, this is all we've got. And I don't know if this is the full short description. I don't know if this is the full detailed description. Usually if I take a segment of it, I'll put like a segment of the details. That might be the full detailed description. So that's how important the witness interview is. So we can't do that witness interview. Insufficient data. And he makes a good point too. We'll reopen the case. So even though the case is completed, if we get more information, more evidence, we can always go in, reopen the case and change the disposition if we find out more information on it. So let's take a look at case number 120521, I think is what it says. Took place on March 3rd of 2023. FB1, another flyby of the first kind in St. Cloud, a glowing orb moving against the wind, no sound, steady speed, unsure how big or how far away. Bill McNeff was working on this one. Let's see what Bill found out. Let's see. I think this is just a photograph. I don't know if it's behind the bar or not. Let's see. You don't? Okay. And so unknown, based on the witness written and verbal accounts, the wind direction east northeast, and watching the video disposition will be unknown others. So I don't have the video on that one though. So I'm going to call that an unknown other. So we don't know what that is. Could it be man-made? Possibly, but it could be something of non-human origin. We simply don't know what that one is. So case number 130595-U took place on July 22nd of 2022 at 11:16 p.m. A sphere, again, close encounter of the first kind in Tower in St. Louis County. So orb moving slowly during Northern Lights viewing. So there's a segment, the cabin sitting dark watching Northern Lights, taking pictures about 11:15. Looking up, notice an orb floating to the east. Said to my neighbor, do you see what I see? And she confirmed it. We talked through what it could be with no explanation. We agreed it was unidentified to us. It was positioned just below treetop height. And Bill Palmieri was working on that one. It's currently completed. And so this is one of the images that the witness submitted. And this is another one kind of showing the area where they were at. And he committed, and that's the thing, insufficient data. But when I went to Form 30, There was nothing on Form 30. So a lot of times we've been doing updates and things to our database and doing downloads and doing backups. And for whatever reason, there was nothing on in any of the fields on Form 30. So I'm assuming that he populated and put his findings in there, but I just don't have access to them. If I had access to his findings, I'd show them to you, but Form 30 was just not populated. So I don't have his thoughts on that. So. So that's up for our updates. Now we've got the new cases. So these are the new cases. These were submitted to us from July 8th through yesterday. So these are all of our current cases. So case summary, we had 9 cases submitted. 2 are ERT cases. So I'm not going to show you any information on the ERT cases, but we'll take a look at ERT here in a second. So ERT stands for our Experiencer Resource Team, and it's a group of MUFON members who assist and support people who've had encounters with non-human entities. We try to aid people in resolving issues caused by these encounters. Our main purpose is to support experiencers by listening and being non-judgmental or critical of them or the information they share with us. So it's not a typical case. It's not like they've had a sighting. And even where it says had encounters with non-human entities, that's not even a requirement. Sometimes we're not even sure they've had an encounter with a non-human entity, but they feel there's something happening with them. With regular cases, we want to have them closed after like 90 days. ERT cases, we like them closed, but there's kind of the understanding that the relationship between the investigator and the experiencer may go on longer. It's more like they may be looking for resources to like a resource team, like counselors or therapists or hypnotherapists or something like that. So they're looking for us as a resource. So they're not necessarily reporting a UFO sighting, and because it's a different type of case, MUFON considers all the information in that case to be a higher sensitivity and higher, they want higher anonymity. So I can tell you that we got 2 of them in. They both were involved entities. They both involved entities, and they both filled out the experiencer questionnaire. That's how I know they're ERT cases, but I can't tell you really anything else more about them. So, but I think the other cases would be kind of interesting. So let's go back to us. So submission date range again is July 8th through yesterday. The date range of the sighting. So we got one going all the way back to September 10th of 1998. So we got an older case here, all the way up through August of 5th of this year. One case of interest. And so it's funny because MUFON calls it a case of interest. And if you're in Minnesota MUFON, I would say it's not that interesting. And remember I said there was going to be a case where you're going to see, we know what that is. Some of you will probably go, oh, we've seen that before, because I find it interesting because when cases get submitted, they go to headquarters first. So headquarters looks at them, and then they come to the chapters. So headquarters will look at them, and they saw this and said, hey, this could be something of non-human origin. So they designated it as a case of interest, but we already know what it was just by looking at the photographs. But so it's interesting that headquarters didn't know what it was, but we kind of know what's going on here. So one case of interest, but like I said, we're not going to find it that interesting. So of the cases we're going to look at 7 of the 9, but of the 9 cases, there were 3 spheres, 2 circles, 1 square rectangular, 1 unknown, and 2 had no shape listed. That's probably the 2 ERT cases had no shape listed. Our valet classification, so we had 2 AN1s. So 2 AN1, so AN is an anomaly. So 2 anomalies of the first kind. So MUFON defines an anomaly of the first kind as anomalies that do not have lasting physical effects, such as amorphous lights or unexplained explosions. They're there and they're gone. There's no evidence of them there at all. So we're going to look at 1 AN3. I shouldn't say we're going to look at them because the ERT cases are included in these, but we're not going to show you those. But there was 1 AN3 came in. So 1 anomaly of the third kind. MUFON defines an anomaly of the third kind as anomalies with associated entities. So that's probably both, one of them was probably the ERT cases. This class could include reports of ghosts, yetis, or other instances of cryptozoology, such as elves or spirits. We're going to look at 1 CE1, so 1 close encounter of the first kind. So MUFON defines a close encounter of the first kind as class of objects seen on the ground or at a short distance to the observer. We're going to look at 1 CE3. So MUFON defines a CE3, close encounter of the third kind. You're probably familiar with the movie. Close encounter of the third kind is a class of close encounters that involve entities or occupants. We're going to look at 1 FB1. So FB is a flyby. So 1 flyby of the first kind. And flyby of the first kind is simply a sighting of a UFO flying by in the sky, the category most frequently reported. And we're going to look at, we got 3 MA1s came in. So 3 MA1s. So an MA is a maneuver. So 3 maneuvers of the first kind. So a maneuver of the first kind is defined as gathers those UFO observations that involve an object with a discontinuous trajectory, such as a drop, a maneuver, or a loop. So something that you're average planer wouldn't be able to do. So that is the valet classifications of the cases that were submitted. I'm going to show you 7 of those 9. So let's just jump right into it. And we've got some good pictures, and we'll have a couple videos too. So I think you'd be impressed by them. So case, that's our ERT defined. Case number 132295-U and -U. MUFON has not really told us what those letters at the end are. They told us what they mean. I call them qualifiers because I think they kind of qualify what the cases are. There's 4 different qualifiers, and the case could have anywhere from 1 to 4 of them. Most of them just have 1, but sometimes we'll see someone 2 or 3. So U stands for UFO, E stands for entity, A stands for abduction, and EQ stands for experiencer questionnaire. So when I see an EQ experiencer questionnaire, that's an ERT case. I can't show you those. So, but yeah, this has got a qualifier of a U for a UFO. So this took place on July 8th of this year at 10:01 p.m. A sphere was seen, anomaly of the first kind, so an AN1 in Rockford. Large, glowing, soft, white, round, or spherical, appeared and disappeared 3 times. So appeared and disappeared 3 times. So here's just a segment of, that's their full short description. Here's just a segment of their detailed description. It appeared at about 60 to 70 degrees up from the south. If it was 100 feet up, then it was 30 feet or a little less in diameter. It appeared and stopped, stayed about maybe 2 to 3 seconds and disappeared. And he emphasized that no alcohol, no drugs, just some good old barbecue ribs. So they're out having a barbecues, no alcohol, no drugs. So Joel Henry it's been assigned to Joel Henry. Joel's working on that. I think we've got some, we might have some, I don't know if we got pictures or videos on this one, or no, we don't. Case number 132482-U took place on July 15th of this year, 10:25 p.m. A sphere was seen, MA1, so a maneuver of the first kind, in Cabatagami in St. Louis County, which is also, note that Cabatagama, I'm not sure how to say that, Kabitogama, St. Louis County. One of our other cases today is also from Kabitogama, but what is it? Kabitogama. I'll take your word for it. And it lists a different county. It lists like Chichiching County. So for some reason, in one case, we've got the same city, but listed in 2 different counties. I'm not sure why that is. And it's an interesting case, the other one too. So their short description was darting bright lights in various directions, laser-like trails, random directions, very fast. So here's just a segment of what they said. Watched various lights appear overhead and to the east, extremely bright round lights with no sound, impossible to decipher altitude, with each one shot off at high speed in various directions. Saw as many as 3 at once. In roughly 45 seconds, we saw a total of maybe 15 lights. So this has been assigned to Peter Collins, and he's working on it. When it completes, we'll show you what the results on that one is. But I think we've got pictures and videos on some of the stuff. I don't know if it's on this one or not. Let's take a look. No. Here's our case of interest. So here's our case of interest I tell you about. They didn't give us a date. Time was 12 a.m. Again, when I see that no date and 12 a.m., I kind of think it's a default. Circle was seen, AN1 in Apple Valley, description round, and this is their full detailed description. Estimated size of at around 200 feet in diameter, westbound on 140th Street, half a mile east of Highway 77, Cedar Avenue, headed toward the object. Bill McNuff has worked on this one. He's completed it. So we're going to show you what Bill thinks it is, but I'm going to show you there's 3 pictures of this. I'm betting some of you are going to go, oh, I know what that is. So let's take a look at our 3 pictures. So this, oh, can you move, because it's behind the bars. We want to see this, because can you move the bar for this one, because it's behind the bar. Or is it? Is it right there? It might be right there. Actually, I think it's right there. Can you hit the lights? Can you kill the lights so we can get a little bit better picture on this? Oh, it is right there. It's right there. So, and that you'll see them better in the other 2 pictures too. But and I'd like to pull the shades too if we can, but I don't know if it's a, yeah, that see the ring right there. If you've been attending these meetings, you probably recognize that already. You probably know exactly what that is. So there's 2 more pictures of it. We'll see it better in this one. You can see that ring of lights right there. So. Oh, there we go. The casino lights. Our magical casino lights are. Oh, there should have been 3 pictures there. Oh, so there's 3 of them. Yeah. So there's our Mystic Lake Casino lights strikes again. So our Mystic Lake Casino lights. Yeah, we get these cases of Mystic Lake Casino lights approximately twice a year. Not uncommon. And if someone like this, they're probably not from the area. They're not going to the casino. They just happen to be in the area. They never see this, but and so. Headquarters looks at this and go, wow, that does look like it could be non-human. But in Minnesota MUFON, we see this about twice a year. And now if this was seen like up in Bemidji or somewhere else, that might be something worth looking at. But since it's down in that same area right by Mystic Lake Casino, I mean, it's the Mystic Lake Casino lights. So but Let's see if Bill McNeff came to the same conclusion. Let's see if he determined it was something else. Let's see what Bill McNeff thinks. So Bill McNeff says a man-made object. So inspection of the Mystic Lake Casino light shining on clouds. So IFO man-made object, identified flying object. So Mystic Lake Casino lights. We get those again. And we get about twice a year. We get those. So thank you, Bill, for your work on that. I'm sure you spent many, many hours trying to determine what that was. So let's case number 132526-U took place on July 15th of this year. Unknown shape, MA1, so a maneuver of the first kind in Faribault. Glowing lights with no sound. So here's just a segment of what they said. I saw two glowing lights that seemed to be attached to the same object. They would occasionally blink one and one with a reddish tint. It was hovering in place about 1,000 feet off the ground when I initially saw it, and I was unable to record that part. I took some video of it flying, although it did head towards the very small airport when it left. I can't rule out this being a very large drone, although I would assume it would make audible noise if it was. I think he said it was also about the size of it. He pictured it was about the size of his truck. But we've got one picture, I think 2 videos. So Joe, I'm gonna ask Joe to do some videos for us in a second, but let's take a look at the picture first. So this, so I think it's 2 pictures. So this is the pathway he believes it took. So he started seeing it here, went up here, kind of did some circle around here, and then headed off this way as the pathway it took. And so here's one photo that he submitted. I think it's actually a screenshot of his videos. And we've got 2 videos of this. They're about a minute or so long. So Joe can minimize this and pull up our videos, and hopefully they can see this on Zoom. But if you can't see it on Zoom, you guys will be able to see it here live in person. So we'll take a look at both videos. So okay. So some of you said Apache helicopter, some said airplane. I think those are very good guesses. That's probably what we're going to be looking at. But of course, like I said, it's currently. Yeah. So Bill is going to be working on this one. He's in progress. When Bill completes it, we will revisit this one and we'll let you know what Bill finds out. Made no noise. Okay. So that's the folder. So now on to case number 132616-U took place on July 5th of this year at 9 p.m. Square rectangle FB1, so flyby, the first kind in St. Paul. I captured this on camera. It was not visible to the naked eye. So that's always when it's on camera, but not the naked eye. Now you don't have an actual witness again. So there's no actual witness. This one's interesting. I am a Humalian and I'm a medium as well. So I got a nudge to take a photo, and then he actually just stopped and put the whole short description and added it to his detailed description. So this is everything that this person wrote. What I captured, among other things beside this incident, I am connected to an extraterrestrial species. They call me Humalian. They said I am a hybrid, but a bit different. I'm a Humalian, they said. I haven't received any new messages. I also do have a hybrid son that lives on the ship named Georgie. I've only seen him 3 times. And I've heard people tell stories of that where they've have children or offspring that are on the ship that they see only when they're on the ship, because they're not like in their family, like they've done some seeding or drawn some genetic material and have fertilized some eggs or whatever. So they're actually raising that. So that sounds like what he's referring to here. So he says he's got this son named Georgie. He's only seen 3 times on the ship, and he calls himself a Humalian. So Humalian, that's a newer term for me. I don't know that I've heard that before, but who knows? Maybe it'll start becoming more common. So Steve Hero was working on this one. He's already completed it. So let's see what Steve has to say, because I don't think we've got any pictures or videos on this one. Oh, yes, we do. So we've got these. And I think what he's pointing to is this thing right here. There's a few pictures, and I think this is what he's referring to here. But see, if you go back to his description, he doesn't really, captures the camera, visible to naked eye. He doesn't really describe what he's seeing. So, but he talks about being a Humalian. So I think it's that bar there. Of course, you see it again here. And then you'll see it again here, a little bit different orientation compared to the buildings and whatnot. And then you've got it again here. And then again over here. So that, I believe, is what he is trying to indicate to us. And Steve says, Steve's calling this an identified other. So since the witness did not see anything in the sky, again, there was no actual witness. It's again found on the pictures afterwards, until she looked at the photos. I decided it must be some type of photographic anomaly, similar to the lens flare I was talking about. When the witness took the photo, it was through the car window. What happened was that as she photographed the skyline through the window, there was a reflection of the high intensity overhead bridge light lighting on the window glass that also got captured in the photo. That image was then superimposed above the skyline, giving the appearance of a UFO over downtown St. Paul. Conclusion, IFO others. So again, so she doesn't describe it, but Steve really thinks that that's, again, artifact of the camera. And again, that's one of those things where we're seeing more of those, where people are saying, I didn't see it with my bare eyes. I didn't see it myself, but on the pictures now, they're showing up. So that's, again, there wasn't technically a witness to this one. So identified other. So, and it could be, you know, you could argue, like I said, you could argue it's information only because there was no witness, but so thank you, Steve, for your work on that one. I don't know if Steve is joining us on Zoom today or not, but thank you, Steve, if you're there or not. So case number 132800-U took place on November 21st of 2022 at 3:30 a.m. A circle was seen, MA1, so maneuver of the first kind, in Duluth, Lake Superior. One light separated into two, going in different directions. So this is just a segment of what the person said. At first, I thought it was a helicopter due to its elevation, but it split into two lights. One continued eastbound while the other headed north. They were both the same size and had a bright yellow orangish glow to them. No blinking lights at all. My coworker witnessed the same lights again with me on another night, making a question mark movement before disappearing again. So Steve Hero is working on this one. I don't know if we've got what we've got on this. We might have pictures on this. I'm not sure. Let's see what we got. No pictures on that one. So Steve is working on that one. And once it's complete, we will revisit this one and see what Steve has determined. Case number 132870-U took place on September 10th. These are back to 1998 one. A sphere was seen, close encounter of the first kind. And see that city again, Cabito Gama or whatever it is. But now they're listed as Cochiching County. Remember St. Louis County before? Now they're saying same city, but Cochiching. So I don't know if that's a mix up in our database or why that is. We got a different county listed. So large spinning orb hovered quietly for a moment and then vanished. Now remember, this is 1998. The other one was much more current. So same city, but the reports are many years apart, which I find interesting. So, because I mean, we see lots of cases from Minneapolis, St. Paul, common cities, but that city we don't really see very often. So it's interesting that two within the same month for the same city that are like more than 30 years apart, like 35 years apart. So right there in front of me over the tree line was a huge, bright, spinning, hovering yellow, gold, orange, and amber color just sitting there. For a split second, I thought, sun? I quickly ruled that out. It was nighttime. Moon? Nope. When I started to sink in that I had no idea what I was looking at, I stared in quiet amazement until it appeared so suddenly to collapse in on itself. Not sure how to describe it. It simply disappeared. So it's been assigned to Peter Collins. He's working on that one. Once Peter completes that one, we'll revisit this one and we'll show you what Peter has determined on that one. Let's see if we got anything on this one. So this is a painting. So this is it's very interesting because you get a little house here, but you'll hear a lot of times where they'll say it looked really big, but you know, obviously at night that's not the sun, wouldn't be the moon. So it's an interesting painting. You know, there's some interesting clusters behind the bar here too, and I don't know if they actually tried to put in constellations or not, but obviously, if you kind of go, well, this person is hoaxing us or making it up or something, I would doubt it. But you know what? So to have a sighting and then to take the time to do a painting this detailed, I feel like it must have really made an impression upon the person. It must have really had an impact because they didn't just sit down there and whip this out really fast. They actually spent some time doing this. And I can't imagine that someone who was trying to perpetrate a hoax would spend that kind of time to go to that kind of detail to make a painting like this and submit it to us. So it's actually really interesting. So I think that's our last case too. So let's take a look and see. And that's What's Up in Minnesota. So that is the end of What's Up in Minnesota. So we made it through there. Oh, just about 3 o'clock. I think we're going to break it through is the plan too. So.